you will show us what is possible today with workflows and how they can customize.
Yes, exactly. Hello, everyone. My name is Markus Glaser, and I'm co-owner of the company and responsible for tech and development here. And my task is, my job today is to show you one great feature we introduced recently in the BlueSpice 4 major version, which is the workflows. I have also prepared a presentation, which you should see now. And I hope I can give you also a bit of a live demo. My talk is about flexible workflows with BlueSpice 4. What is this about? So essentially, let's go back one. When you work with documents and you have a bit of a more formal way of working with the documents, then you typically also have some sort of an edit process. So in a typical wiki, we assume that every edit is going live right away. That's also a bit of the promise the software gives you. But when we go into more formal processes, then of course there needs to be maybe a situation where several people have to look over a change before it can be published, or you just simply want to have feedback or have somebody to take notice of a change. Until BlueSpice 4, we had a feature called Review, which basically allowed you to make a change and then pass it on to a set of people, and if they approve the change, then the page is being published or accepted, set to an accepted state. Now, when we talk to our customers, we got a lot of requests for customizing the workflow, for changing the processes a little bit here and there. We found that the old review tool did not have the necessary flexibility to do so. So we decided to rewrite from scratch. So workflow is a completely new feature. It is not related to review in any way. Built in the flexibility we need and the adaptability we want there. I think to start off and make things a bit more interesting, let's just see how it feels. How does such a workflow work? I have here my great demo wiki, which is a local wiki, and I guess I can even increase the size a little bit. That was too much, probably. Let's assume you're on an arbitrary page on the wiki. As Richard showed you, you can start a workflow from any of these pages using the site navigation, the right one, which is the tool navigation, and start a workflow. You click on that start workflow thing, and then you can select one of predefined workflows. So here we have user approval, document control, as Richard just showed you, group feedback, and single user feedback. Essentially, those are prototypes of workflows, so they can be amended or adapted to your needs. But these are the ones we found to be the most common ones. So single user approval sends a page to one single user and asks for approval, obviously. Expert document control sends the page to a set of experts. Group feedback and single user feedback don't result in a approval of the page, but they result in just there being a comment saying, okay, that's good or that's not so good. The thing I want to point out here is this is all made up in using definitions, and I'm going to show you a little bit how it feels to use those definitions. Now, if you select a workflow, it's just take one single user approval. Then you also get a form which collects initial data. In this case, I have single user approval. Obviously, I want to be able to indicate the user that needs to give the approval. But I could also choose a different workflow, say the expert document control, and then I have a different set of data which is required to initiate the workflow. So workflows now have a set of init data, of initial data, and that's how we can start. I'm going to go for a super easy one. That's single user feedback, which just requests the feedback of one user. And I'm logged in as wiki sysop. So I will call myself now for the purpose of showing you what's going on. And the instructions are, please tell me if this is okay. In this workflow, I could also send a report to an email address. Okay, now let's start that workflow. If I do so, then several things will happen. First of all, that page is now under a workflow. You see that. So this page, there's a workflow running on this page. And now, since I am the user whose action is required, I also see that action is required section here. I can also, as a user, go to the tasks in my personal menu, the tasks page, which shows me that there is a workflow I have to complete, which you see here. So this is my current task, and of course I can just go here. So this also is an indication for you as the individual user to understand there's something happening. Of course, you'll be getting an email if you have notifications enabled. On the other hand, if I'm a maintainer of the wiki or an editor, then I might be interested in what's going on overall in the wiki. So we also have a page that is called Workflows Overview. And whereas the tasks are tailored to the user, so the user only sees their tasks, the Workflows Overview is now a complete list of all workflows running on this wiki. As you can see in my demo wiki, currently there's only one workflow running, which is the single user feedback I just started. We can, now we have the workflow, and now let's assume I got the notification, I saw that, so I go to the main page, and then I can just complete that action. And here you can see the task, which I just entered before, and I can now comment on it and say, yes, all very good. Now, if I submit this, the workflow is done, and on page reload, that should no longer be there. If we take a user approval or group expert document control approach, then this ties into a feature which we call flag revisions or approved pages, where you have two versions of a page. One is the draft version, one is the approved version, and the result of this workflow will then be the page or the change you just made being approved. So that is another thing. So how does this, let me just check if I forgot something. There are so many things around this, this tool. Oh yeah, I forgot something to show you. So one of the bigger improvements that are going to come with the next BlueSpice versions is what we call workflow triggers. Now, as you saw now, whenever I want to start a workflow, collect user feedback, send the page to approval, then I have to manually do this. I have to go to the menu and I have to start the workflow. We got a lot of requests from customers saying, well, can't I do this on just page change, for example, or time-based every first of the month. And in order to do so, there's good news. We can now do this in the next minor version, which is due in a few months. I'm a software developer, I won't give you dates. We have the workflow triggers. So this is the actual preview here. And the workflow triggers are conditions you can actually enter. So you can say currently either on edit, on page creation, or based on a semantic property, I want to do something. So let's just say on edit. And then on edit, what do I want to do? On edit, I want the single user feedback to start. And then you see that form loads. I can also give conditions like saying, I only want this to be triggered in the whatever MediaWiki namespace. Doesn't make sense here, but so if I do this, then on every change, on every edit in MediaWiki namespace, the single user feedback will be triggered, calling this specific user for feedback on that edit. So this is how you can actually create automated workflows in the wiki. And this is even more interesting based on semantic properties. So if a semantic property changes, then a workflow is triggered. This gives you a lot of flexibility to automate your documentation and to work with that. Okay, now that is what you just saw is the possibilities of workflows. So what can we do with it? Now, I want to move on and show you a little bit how we can actually work with workflows and customize them, how you can tailor them to your needs and see the actual benefit of the flexibility. In order to do so, we need to make a quick excursion into the components of workflow. What parts does the workflow have? So basically, underlying I call it the brain. So the thing that coordinates everything is a workflow engine, which we did not invent ourselves. We use a library called event source, which is based on a principle called event sourcing, which is very reliable in terms of going from one step to the next step and have like switches in there and decisions, choices, which you can make and go to and fro. This event source is very solid engine, which is used widely over the internet. Then, what can we do with the workflow? So in order to actually do things, we need activities. For example, if I say at step 5 in the workflow, please send a mail, then send mail needs to be a registered activity in the wiki. Of course, if I just tell it, I don't know, jump 3 times, then the wiki would not understand what that means. So we have to give the wiki a set of commands or activities. We included several activities, and there will be more, but they are also possible to extend. Adding additional activities requires a bit of coding skills, so that is not the super flexible part. Think of it more like the bricks you have to build your workflow with. Then what we also need is the flow. So the workflow means, okay, we have step 1, say collect data, then we go to step 2. Each of these is then an activity. So we go to collect data. If that is finished, we go to, in this case, checkout page. Then we follow that path and get something which is called user vote reviews. Then we have like a switch here, a decision. It goes into 2 directions. And the flow of this in our new workflow engine is modeled in BPMN. So BPMN is an industrial standard which allows you to describe processes, to describe workflows. And we can actually use this as the basis for our tools. Of course, we have to add a bit of extra information here. So if you just use a BPMN you get out of, say, BPMN.io, then you would have to amend it a little bit with some additional information. But the general flow, also visualization, works you can use any BPMN tool. What we also saw is that it's possible to enter data at certain points, especially in the initial part of the workflow, but also later on, for example, in that feedback form I just showed you. In order to enter data, we need forms. So as a, I'm not going to say a byproduct because that's too belittling. As a side effect of the workflow, we also pushed our own form extension, which is in the make currently. That allows you to create forms, to edit forms, and then to actually use those forms in workflows. And then, as I said before, we have these triggers, which can also be changed, which basically add trigger a workflow given a certain event or a certain action that happens in the wiki. Okay, now let's go back to live. And let me catch up with my script here. So now all of this is, of course, not super easy. It has adding or changing workflows involves several components. But what I want to do now is I want to show you that is also not rocket science, right? So I would think if you are familiar with semantic MediaWiki and you're able to do your own semantic properties, you will also be able to create your own workflows and change existing workflows. So it requires some sort of wiki experience, wiki editor experience, but it does not require coding skills to do to add additional workflows. And the good news is you can actually add workflows just from within the wiki. So we designed it that way. So you don't have to have access to the server necessarily and get all the security clearance for that. So what I'm going to show you, what I prepared here is a custom workflow, which essentially has a user scenario in mind, which is a sign up, say a event sign up page. Of course, it's a bit artificial here because I wanted to show a few things. But what we want to do is we want to start the workflow. The workflow collects the data of somebody who signs up to an event and then do something with the data. And in this case, we want to add the data to a wiki page. Now, this is also a feature that is about to come in the next BlueSpice version. So instead of just sending mails or being able to approve pages, what we now can do is we can actually modify pages and modify template data. And that's what I'm going to show you, because I personally think that will be a big step into automation of documentation of all sorts. So what do we need for this? Basically, of course, I have prepared it for you because I don't want you to see my mistyping all the time. What I did is I created a page in the wiki. It's called checklist BPMN. So while this might just look scary because it's a lot of XML, what I did was I used BPMN, I reused an existing BPMN from one of the BPMNs we deliver. So that's not, I did not have to write all this by myself, but with BlueSpice, you get some workflow definitions, and I just copied one of them into the wiki and started modifying it. So what you can see here is, importantly, we have several steps So you see these BPMN task steps, which are here. And then this is the steps in the BPMN workflow. By the way, all of our BPMN XMLs also load in a visual mode, so you can just enter them. That's what I did here. I can live show you this. So this is bpmn.io. You can all just open it. It's a free tool. And you can see here is my BlueSpice. So there's a folder extension, BlueSpice distribution connector workflow. That's where the user approval and the document export control workflow is. So I open the document control workflow, for example. Now let's take the user approval, so it's a bit different. And then I go to open, and now you see that's the workflow here. Okay, so that XML just loads into into standard BPMN tools. Okay, so I modified this, and I just want to get you through the steps really quick. So what we do is we collect data. In this case, I want to collect the data food, participant, and remarks. Then once I get the data, I use a task of type edit page. So this is the activity. You remember activities are the bricks that we give you with the workflow. So I use that activity edit page. I tell it that please edit the page with title checklist results and append this wiki text line here. As you can see, I can refer to the data. If you don't understand this right away, it's too fast for you, there is a lot of documentation, and it's also been improved, which you can find on the on our help desk, wiki.bluespice.com. So if you look for workflows, you can see all of that, and also how to add custom stuff here. Okay, so I want to edit that one page, and then as a last step, I want to set a template param. So that's a bit different from editing, because in this case, it identifies a specific parameter in a template which you included from anywhere. And I changed that template of title wiki news, and I changed the parameter latest name to what we just enter as participant. I'm going to show you the effects of this in a minute. Okay, so that's step one. Get that BPMN diagram adopted to your needs. Again, it might look scary, but it is not if you're not afraid of writing this text, so it's not hard to understand. And you can copy a lot of elements over from one step to the other. So next thing we need to do is, where is my list here? Next thing we need to do is we need to create a form that collects the data. And as you can see here, that's also a page in the wiki. So one page is checklist.bpmn, the other is checklist.form. Now, you can see, you will see in a second that there is a form behind this, which has 3 fields. And actually, I can edit that form and adopt it to my needs. So whenever you have a page that ends in .form, then the wiki will see this is a form, and then you can edit it using the form editor. Now, for example, I can just rearrange things here. And put the remarks above name or below bring food. I can also add new elements here. So that is a fully fledged form editor. And that is probably a topic for a different talk. So we have those 2 elements. Let's just quickly see how the form integrates into the BPMN. You can see in my BPMN, I have this user task, which is of activity custom form. And here I can say, okay, please use the checklist form, right? So that's it. And basically that's it. So this is just a unmodified normal standard BlueSpice 4.2, which you don't have, but it will be out soon. I added two pages. One is the BPMN page, one is the form page. Now we can try the workflow. And I'm going to do this. So I start the workflow, and you see there is a workflow checklist here. So the moment I have a checklist.bpmn in my wiki, the workflow will show up here as an entry. Now I can choose it and open. What you see here is the form I just created, or I just showed you. So now let's enter a name, BlueSpice product day and remarks. The party will be great. And then I start the workflow. And now instead of it's saying on the page that something's happening, the workflow was just executed. Yeah, that's it, fire and forget. How do I know the workflow actually ran? I have this page checklist results. You remember, that's the one we said should be modified. So here, checklist results. And now we expect on checklist results to be an entry that's called BlueSpice product day. So let's go here. It already tells me there's a new version open. And you can see workflow worked. It appended the text BlueSpice product day, the party will be great, to my checklist results. Also, we said we want to modify a specific template, and that is on a page called Wiki News. And you see, I opened it before the edit. So currently it says our newest participant is test user. When I reload the page, we hopefully see that the newest participant is now BlueSpice product day. Yes, so you can see it here. The important thing here is this is set up as a template. So just take a look at the source. What I did here, what we did here is we modified a specific parameter. So we just, instead of appending to the text here, we modified the parameter latest name, which you can see here, and set it to BlueSpice product day. So this, of course, helps you to create semantic data. For example, if you use BlueSpice semantics, that's all about these templates and templates parameters. And the workflow now can help you modify semantic properties in the wiki. Okay, that was a quick tour de force around the, in my opinion, huge possibilities and huge potential of the workflow, be it as a process tool for approval as you were used to in the old BlueSpice versions, but also be it as a tool where you can actually start automating your content. So content starts reacting. Whenever you change something on page X, you could set up a workflow to actually do something on other pages, which I personally think brings a huge potential. That's it from my side. Do you have any questions?
Oh, Markus, thank you very much for sharing this.
Yes.
So I don't know, but I more and more get an idea how powerful this tool is. The first idea was you only to replace one of the oldest part of the BlueSpice code with something which is more modular and more flexible. But it turns out that you can use this in so many ways. I have already some ideas. I have to talk to you later.
I'm on holiday the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, but for instance, if people maybe just want to apply for holidays or so, maybe or other things like somebody is, if you use a wiki for for an event, and people should provide you with any sort of application or so, then that forms will help a lot, and workflows will help you a lot to process things. But in this combination, I think that's a huge step forward, and we need many talks in that direction to show what is possible with this. Yeah. Questions from your side?
It's probably things need to settle a bit. I guess it was quite a lot of information. We are continuously working on the documentation for this tool. Also we are using it for our own processes here excessively. So there will be, I guess, more activities coming, more documentation coming. We'll find new use cases. So I guess that, that feature will have a bright future.
Yeah. Okay, Markus, thank you very much.
Thank you.